Intro, we started talking because of Weinstein, and we realized we both live in the same town. But then I was also like, so online harassment. And you were like, oh, yeah, I know some about that.
Okay, so back here with Megan, the reporter. That's the only thing I'm
Yes.
ever going to refer to you as
Yes.
now.
Please.
But I wanted to just run through really quick because she's done such an incredible job on the Tory Lanez Megan Thee Stallion trial, and pretty much I feel like online, like leader in online coverage, dominating that whole arena. And what was that like? Did you see that coming? Like, did you anticipate all that there was going to be this?
It was so surprising. And I've looked back on a tweet, and this was before I was getting all the attention on Twitter, but I just remarked that, oh, the Tory Lanez trial is coming up. I'm looking forward to being able to say that I have covered testimony from the two women responsible for the WAP song in separate trials within 2 months of each other. Because really, who can say that they've covered testimony by both Cardi B and Megan Thee
Wait,
Stallion
you were
in
at
separate
Cardi
trials?
B's trial too?
Yeah,
When
and it
was
was
that?
a much more lighthearted trial. She was sued over the cover to her first mixtape, Gangsta Bitch Music, Volume 1. And she was actually at the courthouse in Santa Ana for like 4 days. It was a really fun week to be
Oh,
at the
I can
courthouse.
only imagine.
Oh, it was awesome.
Cardi in trial.
Yeah, she testified. It was hilarious.
She did?
Yes, my favorite testimony line when she found out that she was being sued. She's like, I think TMZ reported, and she's like, all the blogs are like, Cardi's being sued. Cardi's being sued. So I called up my manager, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, he told me that he'd get me a lawyer. And I'm like, well, and 7 years later, whatever it was, here we are today. But she won. It was a full defense verdict for Cardi. And
She
it
had
was just-
victory. Good for Cardi.
It was so fun. Like there's a high school across the street, and they all figured out she was there, so they started like going every day to like mob her outside court. So I kind of went into the Tory Lanez trial knowing that it was a lot more serious than some civil case. But looking back on that tweet, because I mentioned Nancy, my friend who's the Rolling Stone reporter and had been covering the Lanez case forever. And now that I know everything about the Lanez case and how crazy things are online, I was like, that was kind of a dangerous tweet to send. Like, especially to just include Nancy in like that. I kind of almost opened her up for a huge amount of online vitriol, being like, oh, you people just think this is a game? A man's life is on that kind of stuff. Nobody saw it. Like,
everything gets twisted.
Yeah,
and I know. And I still forget sometimes because when I post in my head, I'm thinking like I'm posting to like 400 people, or even sometimes I'm really, delusional and think that I'm like on a text thread with people. And you kind of forget how warped your words are.
Yeah. But then I also realized it's like, it kind of shows how programmed I've been over the last 8 months that I would look back on that tweet and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have sent that. Screw that. Of course you should have sent it. Nancy doesn't care that you sent that. She thought it was funny.
That's
like,
the whole part of, Twitter is it's like lifetime, reactions to things.
Yeah.
So, and you never expect what's ahead of you. I don't think you saw this coming with, you got a lot of, I've seen you you were just in GQ. What was the title?
Oh, what was it? Something about Megan the Reporter. And 19th News was like how Megan the Reporter came the go-to source for...
Who gave you the name?
The first time I heard it was from Jesse Weber, who's a host at Law and Crime Network. But I think the internet, the Black Twitter, had definitely started calling me that in the replies. But I was so busy covering the trial that I wasn't just looking at my Twitter replies. But
you didn't even realize you'd been crowned.
Yeah, when I did a call-in with Jesse, who's a funny guy, and he was just like, "Oh, Megan the Reporter," and I've seen the YouTube video, and some people comment, they're like, "Love the way he says Megan the Reporter there."
I loved when I saw that, and I'm like, that's my girl. Okay, but with that coverage comes, a crazy amount of hate.
Yes.
Right. I went through it with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, and I'm still dealing with that for that trial. But had you ever experienced that before?
I had in a much smaller level, and really I kind of felt like I was, a grizzled veteran from it, because I remember a journalism instructor at University of Oregon used to tell us, he's like, if you can't take the heat, then don't play basketball. It was like, look, that's kind of comes with the job, right? And cases that I covered up in Spokane, there were people emailing me, and white supremacist supporters, all this crazy stuff in the comments. And then Michael Avenatti, the fraudulent lawyer who represented Stormy Daniels in her lawsuit against Trump. I covered all of his financial troubles for a few years. And he had like this core group of like 5 devoted fans online that were always giving me shit. So I'm like, oh, I'm used to this. But the Lane stuff was just like exponentially larger. It was way more
But
people.
did it just take off? I mean, I feel like it was all good. It was all good that I saw. And then I didn't pay too much. I mean, I'm not on Twitter like a lot of as frequently as a lot of people, but I saw a lot of positive, and all of a sudden it kind of shifted, and there was just like vicious attacks.
Yes, like during the trial, there was so much going on. I didn't even really have time to read it, but there was also just such a huge volume of people. People loved me. I mean, I'd see a little bit of hate here and there, but it's just a small percentage of it. And for the most part, I mean, I'm trending on Twitter. People are inviting me to their barbecues and stuff, saying that I have a permanent spot on the list. But that was during the trial. And then after the trial, when he's convicted, it's like, look, most people understand that like it's over, you know, they want to know what he's sentenced to. I kind of think back to when I first started covering cops reporting and writing about people getting arrested. My editor at the Spokesman Review was like, in the end, people just want to know if he's going to go to jail. But it's kind of true.
It's
like
kind of
when you
true,
hear about a crime, it's like all the ins and outs. It's like after he's convicted, people want to know how many years he's going to go to prison.
I'm the opposite. I want to know all the in-betweens, right?
Yeah. So there's such a healthy population in the Megan Thee Stallion case that is like you, wants to know everything. But the problem is you just don't have the huge numbers that you do during the trial. So when the news is it's a random Wednesday and his motion for new trial has been delayed again, the people who are, you know, the masses aren't there, but his stands are definitely
so
there.
then they kind of rise to the forefront.
Yeah, they start rising to the top.
Yeah, you're right. I guess that is what happens. It kind of, everybody filters away, and then you have these hardcore deranged people. But I mean, it's crazy. I think because as adults, we're not really anticipating being bullied by other adults. Because it's like one thing to be like, I don't agree with you, or even just like ask a question like, well, I think this, but it's like, you're fucking ugly, you're an idiot, you know, just like the craziest, most crude insults.
Yes.
I can't even believe that people talk like this.
This shows how naive I am about that world. It started with Cardi B, because when I knew that Cardi B was going to be at the courthouse in Santa Ana, I was like, that's my courthouse. I want to get a picture of her going in. So I got up early and got there at like 7 a.m, right before it opens, because you don't know what time she's going to be there, and waited out there for like 40 minutes, got a picture of her going in, uploaded it to Twitter, and everybody takes it, and of course does not credit me at all. And as we kind of have a code amongst other reporters who've worked in mainstream news and stuff, that you at least cite each other or something. You don't just steal each other's work. So I was kind of miffed about it, and now looking back, I'm just like, I kind of laugh. I'm like, oh, what a naive child I was. Of course they ripped off my photo and put their own watermark on it. That's what they do.
Yeah. But so you don't regret anything about,
No.
I mean, you learned, do you feel like you grew a lot and learned a lot from that experience, or?
Absolutely, because I'd been so siloed in trade legal journalism forever. I mean, when I worked at the Los Angeles Daily Journal, which is like this clubby newspaper for lawyers, from 2016 to 2020, like we weren't even allowed to use Twitter. So I knew that I was like missing out on this huge career building thing. But, you know, this is working at the Daily Journal is what gave me all my contacts in the court system and all my knowledge of it. So being able to get out of there and kind of merge into mainstream stuff through Law and Crime, and just like figuring out that you do more on YouTube than just listen to your favorite songs. It's like there's actually like news and streaming on here.
And I feel like that's where
making
majority
tons
of people are going now, right? They kind of depend on their certain people.
Yeah. So that was a big thing, was opening my eyes to that. And then the vitriol, like I said, you know, I'd experienced it before, but just the nasty vitriol was just like, I mean, it's a culture shock a little bit, just to see all the profanity. And I
just feel like it's so crude. It's so gross. Like the things they say, it's just like, I can handle, like, I wish I had smarter trolls. They're just like so gross, you know?
Yeah. Like and I told some people it was a shock to the system when I like look at big accounts retweeting me, and their photo is just cleavage, and it's an OnlyFans URL, and you realize it's a porn star, but all she's doing is just retweeting her Tory Lanez and Meg news. They want their Tory Lanez and Meg news. I'm like, okay. Yeah.
And you're there for them.
Yeah.
What was the worst? What were some of the worst that you dealt with? I wish I would have printed some of them. I have somebody keep track of, you know, because they drag my kids into it a lot. And that is just, to me, I can't believe that grown people do that. So they'll drag my kids, and so I have to have people kind of monitor it sometimes. But they'll send me really funny ones, and we should read them sometime.
Yeah.
We should read our hate tweets.
That would be excellent, because I would have to collect them. But like what you said about the kids was, I have a friend who's a political operative in Orange County and is kind of funly involved in all this municipal development stuff. And he's kind of known as, a player in the dirty politics game. The number one rule in that game is you don't include kids in that.
I thought that was across the board. I just thought you don't, and I can't. And I have one of them's young, and they'll even drag in my youngest, and it's just so there's just no limit.
There are no standards for that, like, at all.
And it's a matter of us having different opinions about certain things, but the intensity is like pretty scary, actually.
And what happened was, it kind of took me a while to realize it was going on, because it was like, okay, he was convicted at trial. There's going to be a sentencing. I mean, the case kind of seemed over, right?
Right.
But his fans and his stands and his people who are so dependent on his career and don't know anything about the court system are like, okay, this motion for new trial, we've got to win this one. And it's like, nobody ever gets a new trial. But there was like an organized effort against me. And I think my favorite...
Wait, didn't Tory tweet about you?
He did. It was an Instagram story.
It was Instagram.
Yeah, and he spelled my name wrong. He misspelled.
Did you correct him?
Yeah, I said, oh, I wish he'd spelled my name right or something. And that was like the tweet that made headlines. But I would get like random replies on Twitter, like kind of all of a sudden people are being really nasty on there, like, you fucking hoe, like blah blah blah. It's like, well, I don't want to offend anyone with the language, but and then somebody in the DMs slid in and said that this is an organized effort by somebody who runs this radio station. She's sending all her listeners after you. And the thing is, it's easy to get caught up in that, but like when I break away from my phone or my laptop and like go outside and like talk to a real person like you, it's like people don't take these people seriously.
Well, that's what I've learned too. What I keep repeating in my head is I was with this kind of big time reporter, and she was standing in her bathrobe watching all of this hate come in, and I'm complaining about the trolls, because it does sometimes, if you let it, if you get caught up in it, it will hurt your feelings. And she just said, they're just barking dogs. And so always I have that in my head, but it's true, because I watch your stories and I see you out there on the pier. We share the same town.
Yes.
So you're out there on your bike rides, walking, you go see the sunsets. As soon as you log off and that's the thing too. I'm like, wait, why do we care at all? Yeah. Because if you believe in what you're doing, that's all that matters. And there is so much praise and support. It's like, you cannot get caught up in the negativity and the hate, because otherwise it will start to kind of shift how you do things or think about things,
Totally. And one advice I had from, there was such a cool group of people that I met covering Tory Lanez, but Nick at Night, she has a YouTube channel that she's successful at, and I've covered the T.I. and Tiny were on trial after Tory Lanez, but I talked to her just about YouTubing, and she has a policy of responding. If she's going to respond to a hater, she's also going to respond to 5 nice comments. And that's
really?
like one of the most compelling arguments for why I've heard that you really just should ignore every single one of those people, because it's not fair to the people who like you and are there commenting that you're only you're giving these people attention, and you're not giving your
that's very
so like during the darkest days of the Tory Lanez harassment, where every time I'd look on Twitter, there's like new people to block. They're talking about some like arrest that they saw from like 12 years ago. That's like, I don't owe anyone any kind of explanation for like charges or something. It's like, and it's crazy. And it's also like, know your audience. I saw somebody respond to it once, and they're like, I like Tory Lanez fans bringing this stuff up. Like, it doesn't just make me think that she's a badder bitch than I realized. But I mean, it's like, know your audience, the kind of
know your audience. Yes.
On that, I would just remind myself, it's like, not to be conceited, but like, just go back and type in your name and look at all the people who were singing your praises during the trial. That was like so overwhelming, you would never be able to respond to any of them.
Right.
And they're old tweets, so responding to them now would look kind of weird. But reading those is a hell of a lot better than reading all these people who have been like sent to just attack you and tell you that you're a terrible person.
Well, and I also think it's so weird to wake up as an adult and you spend your time on these sites just attacking other people. Like nobody I know with jobs and lives and full friends and stuff, nobody has time for that. So, and I mean, all of us have different opinions. All of us reporters, like when we're all, I mean, me and you have different opinions about certain things. I love it. I like sitting down and talking about everything from every angle. You know, I just don't, I'll never understand it, but I guess that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. And I think like what you were saying earlier and kind of got us into the discussion was I mean, it is kind of funny. And when you talk to real people who aren't like just hanging out in the Instagram comments all the time, they think it's hilarious. Like I've got a couple of people, lawyer sources in LA who are like, we can't turn away from the Tory Lanez stuff. They're like, we love it. Like keep covering it. Like all this drama, you know? And I've just kind of been frank with some of Tory Lanez's people. I'm like, you know, mainstream society doesn't take you guys seriously, right? You have to look at it from a humorous standpoint, or else it's
always
like you're gonna like look your name up on YouTube and see somebody made a 20-minute video about how ugly you are and be like, what the hell is this?
It's always that you're ugly. It's like,
yeah, totally.
I'm like, we're not in this business to be pretty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, in
they always want you to know that you suck because you're ugly.
Yeah. Yeah. It always just goes to that. But you know, and it does make you self-conscious about stuff where it's like, well, I've been working all this time and I haven't been able to go to all my national parks and stuff, and it's like, no dude, erase that thinking out of your mind. Those people are always going to be there. It's like,
but again, you got to figure adults attacking others I mean, it's just like a different breed of person.
You asked my favorite, and we should get a collection.
We'll do that. We'll have drinks one night and we'll read like in theater voices.
My favorite was and it was really random too. I bet your breath smells like coffee and white ass. I'm like, okay.
But again, do you see how gross that is?
Yeah, no,
it's so disgusting. Crude. I cannot handle. That's why I can't even get offended because I'm more grossed out. I'm like, you really talk like this?
Like, seriously, like I posted something about Lanez's old lawyer now, Jose Baez, who represented like Casey Anthony, the child killer, the prominent accused child killer, the prominent lawyer. He was so adamant at sentencing that he's going to file a motion for bail pending appeal. And it had been like 2 weeks and there wasn't one filed. And, he wasn't going to say one way or the other whether he was going to file one. He started posting Instagram stories from Italy. So I was like, just tweeted, hey, he said he was going to file a motion for bail, but apparently it's not a big priority. He's tweeting from Italy. And Lanez's fans went crazy. For like 3 days, they were just like beside themselves.
They'll just keep coming. Yes, they're
I almost don't even want to repeat it, but she's commenting. She's like, oh yeah, did you get out a pair of binoculars to see if you could see him having sex with his wife? I'm like, what the fuck? No. Oh my God. Like I said, don't even repeat that. But it's like,
oh no, they're all, I know.
The fact that they're even thinking about that stuff. I'm like, dude, he posted it on his law firm Instagram page. I think he wants people to see it.
It was there. He posted because he wants you to know he's on a beautiful vacation.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll have to do that. Read our mean tweets. Wait, I do have to tell you one time I did lose my temper because, it took me about a year to get used to all the hate. And so last Mother's Day, I believe, maybe it was, whenever the Johnny Depp trial was going on, during Mother's Day, I went out with my friends and I was exhausted because, trials, they consume you. If you're covering them in real time, it's just completely drained. Took this one day off, Mother's Day. Me and my friend were watching movies. We had just gone down to, what's the place with the Mai Tais? What's the place that everybody likes here?
Like every
Wind and
place
Sea.
In South Orange County.
Wind and Sea. We had the Wind and Sea Mai Tais. Have you had those?
I maybe.
Very strong.
We'll add it to the list.
So I had like 2 of those. And then, I'm laying down. We're having so much fun. I randomly check my email and I have like death threats from some random lady. Not only me. She's like, I hope you die and I hope your sons die. And I like, but I responded with so many expletives. I told her to choke on glass. Like it was bad. And then they're all over the internet the next day and it looks like I'm the maniac.
Yeah. Well, and I think for the most part, it's such a small world. And then if people are Googling that and they see that, they know it's like isolated and taken out of context.
You think so?
One thing, I should do a disclaimer. I mean, you have it way worse than I do. First of all, your audience is way bigger. And that's one thing I really have been fortunate with, to call the Lane stuff harassment when it really was just reserved to the internet. Like I could block these people and they would go away. And I don't want to give them any ideas, but like if they really wanted to make my life miserable, it's not that hard to find my cell phone number. I mean, and you've experienced stuff like that. Where
they've gotten
people are just
my number
mass
before.
texting you and stuff. And I am fortunate not to have experienced anything like that. I have gotten a couple of text messages from obvious Lanes people who are like, oh, here's your address. But it's not actually even my current address. But even then, I'm like, if they did text me my current address, it would be a little bit freak out. But I'm like, dude, these people are just bluffing. I mean, I've never actually felt like truly threatened by them.
I mean, I only had that incident with the local stalker, and that was scary because it was one of my biggest, crazy trolls. But then I realized she lives a mile away, so it did get a little scary. And police won't help you until something happens to you. So it's like, it's a weird thing to be public on the internet and kind of open yourself up to these attacks and not really have any protection. You don't really know how to handle it, or if you're overreacting or underreacting.
Yeah.
If you're paranoid, or you just ignore it because people are crazy. But
like, I did a YouTube live the other night where there were some Lane's fans kind of swarming the comments, and when they just make it so everyone else can't comment, that's one reason to ice them. But if they're just saying like, Megan, you're a terrible and biased journalist, it's like, to hide that comment and block it just seems way overreacting. It's like, people have a right to criticize journalists, and I mean, we are putting ourselves out there as arguably public figures. So
I do agree with you, but I did sort of start blocking people when they, like, I'm open to being criticized, but not if it involves these kind of gross insults. So if somebody, do you know what I mean? So I did start blocking because I'm like, you don't need to be, because I do feel like the space, even though we're public, it's we're not private accounts, but there still is some sort of respect that is required to. So in a way, I'm like, you don't need to be in my sight if you're going to be so. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to entertain these people if they're going to be completely rude. I wouldn't have you in my house. Like, I wouldn't put up with that anywhere.
Yeah. Personal attacks, any vulgarity, and that's one thing I've been like so steeped in this stuff for somebody. It's good to hear you talk about how gross it is, because seriously, in like normal lawyers who go to my Twitter account for news and stuff, it's like, they don't want to see all these cleavage pics and like the N-word and stuff. It's like, dude, it's just block
littered
these
with
people.
like crude, like gutter language. But anyway, okay, one last question, and I want to know. I have to know because I feel like maybe I'm missing the headlines on this. But are Brad and Angelina gonna go to court?
I don't know. If they do, we are absolutely there.
We're gonna live there. We will camp out.
Yeah. So something divorce, child custody. Is that what's going on? I mean, they're
so they
divorced,
just postponed.
Right? Yeah.
I think he's trying to drop the deal with the wine. It was a new thing just last week, so I'm gonna have you look it up when you leave here, and you can fill me in. But something he's trying to sneak out or back out of their deal, and she's furious. But so she's submitting more emails and things. It's getting kind of ugly, but they're gonna have a hearing.
Oh.
She wanted to have it dropped, and the judge didn't drop it, so they're going to have a new hearing pretty soon. So we got to look into that.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's LA Superior Court.
Right.
Okay, and it's civil, obviously, so we should be able to get the documents online, which that's one problem with those criminal cases in LA. It's kind of like a locked fortress, but we have more online access, and we can make a visit to the old Stanley Moss courthouse up in downtown LA.
Well, hopefully next time you're sitting here, we're talking about Brad and Angelina and the chateau and the rosé.
Absolutely.
And all of that good stuff.
Oh my God, please.
All right. Thanks for coming. Thanks for hanging out.
Me. Of course.